Mr. Perkins, Türkiye'nin en büyük holdinglerinden birinin patronu IMF'in Türkiye'ye çağrılması için çağrılar yaptı. Bu normal mi? IMF'i çağırmalı mıyız?
Well, that'll undermine the government. So Koch is asking to get the IMF involved because getting the IMF involved will undermine the government. The IMF is a robber baron. The IMF comes in as a last resort, basically. You know, the IMF is going to ask Turkey to sell off more of its public sector industries and businesses. You've already done this. You've sold off your communication system and your liquors and so on and so forth. Privatization. The IMF always wants privatization because it wants the big corporations to come in and take control. The IMF is a tool of the corporatocracy, and so and Koch is part of the corporatocracy, and he's opposing the Erdogan administration. So it makes total sense to me that he would want the IMF to get involved. The government should not want IMF to get involved. The people should not want IMF to get involved, because the IMF is going to rip you off. It's going to steal from you. That's what the IMF does. That's what they do so well. You know, the greatest success stories right now in dealing with the IMF, the current greatest success stories are Iceland and Ecuador. Both of those countries have refused to pay what the IMF says they owe. Huge amounts of money. I don't remember what it is in Iceland, but in Ecuador it's $3.5 billion. Both of these countries refused to pay. They said, we're not paying that money, we don't owe it. The IMF basically struck a deal with former leaders in these countries that were illegal leaders. They did not reflect a democratic decision to accept the money. They accepted the money. President of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, says this money was signed, these deals were signed by a military junta that was put into power here by the CIA. J.PERKINS was here at the time, economic hitman, convinced the junta to take out these loans. I've become good friends with Rafael Correa. In a way, we corresponded. And he says, my people, the Ecuadorian people, don't owe this money. The IMF owes the money. The military junta owes the money, but they've all died or gone to live in Miami. And maybe J.PERKINS owes the money. But my people don't owe the money. Iceland's saying something similar. And this is how you have to deal with the IMF. We're not paying. Wherever I go, I give this advice. I gave it in Iceland, and Iceland listened, and they passed a referendum by over 90% of the population, don't pay the money. I advised the Irish people. I was on a speaking tour of Ireland not too long ago. I advised them, don't pay. They took a referendum and they voted to pay. They didn't listen to me, although I've actually heard that it was probably a rigged vote. I've heard that probably the Irish people did vote not to pay, but the polls were rigged. I don't know. My advice to Turkey is don't take on any IMF loans, don't take on any World Bank loans, and don't pay your debts if they're taken on by people that don't represent you, the people. The only time loans like this should be taken on is if the whole country agrees in some vote. Almost never will the country agree to that.